Before this story begins, before the laughter, before the pride, before the tears, listen carefully. Some stories are not told to entertain. Some stories are told to warn. Some stories are mirrors. When you look into them, you see yourself, your choices, and the road you are walking on. This is one of those stories. In life, many people laugh at love. They laugh at patience. They laugh at small beginnings. They laugh at people who are still climbing. They believe money is everything. They believe appearances are destiny. They believe today is forever. But life has a way of teaching lessons, slowly, painfully, and without mercy. This is the story of a young woman who believed love without money was useless. A girl who mocked men with dreams. A girl who insulted hard work. A girl who believed that a car is character and money is morality. She laughed. She rejected. She waited. And when what she wanted finally came, it did not come alone. It came with consequences. As you listen to this story, do not be too quick to judge. Ask yourself, have I ever looked down on someone because they had nothing? Have I ever mocked someone who was still trying? Have I ever chosen pride over patience? This story may make you angry. It may make you sad. It may make you reflect. But one thing is certain, you will not forget it. So before we continue, please support this channel. If you enjoy deep African stories that teach life lessons, touch the heart, and reveal hidden truths, subscribe to this channel now. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories like this to life. And please, do not skip. Do not rush. Do not leave halfway. Because the end of this story will answer a question many people are afraid to ask: is money enough to protect the heart? Now sit back, listen carefully, and let the story speak. In the lively town of Obanze, where traders shouted from morning till night, lived a young woman named Amaka. She was known far and near, not because she was rich, but because she was beautiful. Amaka was the kind of girl people turned to look at twice. Her skin glowed under the sun. Her smile could stop a conversation. Her walk carried pride. From her teenage years, people already said, "This one will marry a rich man." Amaka grew up hearing such words, and slowly, those words entered her heart and stayed there. She began to believe she was above ordinary life. Her parents were not rich. Her father was a retired civil servant. Her mother sold foodstuff in the market. They trained Amaka with struggle, prayer, and patience. But Amaka hated struggle. She watched her mother wake up before dawn. She saw her father count small money carefully. In her heart, she promised herself, "I will never suffer like this." As she grew older, young men started coming. Some came with their parents. Some came quietly, hoping to talk to her alone. Some sent friends to speak for them. The first was Obina, a schoolteacher. He spoke calmly and respectfully. "I am not rich yet," he said, "but I am working. I believe in building a future." Amaka looked at his worn shoes and laughed. "Teacher," she said, "will you teach me how to wear gold with chalk money?" Obina left in shame. Next came Chukuma, a mechanic who had just opened his own workshop. His hands were stained with oil, but his eyes were full of hope. "I will not promise you heaven today," he said, "but I promise hard work." Amaka waved her hand dismissively. "You smell of grease," she said. "Come back when your hands smell of money." Chukuma never returned. One by one, men came. And one by one, Amaka destroyed them with words. If a man came on a motorcycle, she mocked him. If a man trekked, she insulted him. If a man spoke about future plans, she laughed at him. Her favorite question was always the same: "Where is your car?" To Amaka, a man without a car was not a man. A man without visible wealth was not worth her time. Her friends warned her. Amaka once said, "Some of these men are serious. Life is not only about now." Amaka would smile and reply, "I am not desperate. I know what I want." She loved social media. She followed rich wives, celebrities, and flashy fake lifestyles. And some pages that believed that a man must provide everything for a woman. Her beauty became her brain. She wanted wigs, handbags, and foreign trips. Love, to her, was measured by what a man could buy. Her parents tried to talk to her many times. Her father once called her and said gently, "My daughter, do not use today's condition to judge tomorrow's destiny." Amaka rolled her eyes. "Daddy," she replied, "love without money is suffering." Her mother cried silently. She knew her daughter was walking a dangerous path, but Amaka would not listen. As years passed, some of the men Amaka rejected began to improve their lives. One became a contractor. One traveled abroad. One built a small house. But Amaka did not notice. She was busy waiting for the big man. She wanted a man who would arrive with a car, throw money around, and silence everyone who doubted her. Then one evening, everything changed. The town was buzzing as a shiny black car drove slowly through Obanze. Children stopped playing. Women whispered. Men turned their heads. The car stopped near Amaka's house. A tall man stepped out. He wore expensive clothes. His wrist shone with a gold watch. His name was Agobundu. People said he was a businessman. They said he was powerful. They said he had connections. When Agobundu looked at Amaka, she felt something she had never felt before. Not love, pride. "This is my level," she thought. Agobundu spoke sweet words. He spent money freely. He never complained about bills. Amaka did not ask where the money came from. She did not care. To her, the car answered all questions. That night, Amaka stood in front of the mirror and smiled. "All those men I rejected," she whispered, "thank God I waited." When Agobundu came into Amaka's life, he did not come quietly. He came like a storm dressed in perfume and polished shoes. From the very first day, people noticed him. His car was always clean. His horn sounded with confidence. When he parked, people stepped aside. Amaka noticed him too. The second time she spoke with Agobundu, she was sitting with her friends outside a small shop. The sun was hot, and the street was busy, but everything seemed to pause when the black car stopped nearby. Agobundu stepped out slowly, adjusting his dark glasses. Amaka's heart skipped. "This is the kind of man I deserve," she thought. He walked towards her with ease, like someone used to attention. He greeted her politely and asked for her name. That evening, he called her phone. From that day, Agobundu did not waste time. He took Amaka to expensive places she had only seen online. He bought her shoes that cost more than her father's monthly pension. He filled her room with gifts. Amaka felt like she was finally living the life she believed was meant for her. Her friends envied her. "Amaka has arrived," they whispered. But inside her parents' house, there was fear. Her father watched Agobundu closely. Something about him did not sit well in his spirit. Agobundu never spoke clearly about his business. He avoided details. He laughed questions away. My work is complicated, he would say. You will not understand. Amaka did not care. To her, questions were for poor people. Results were what mattered. One evening, her father asked him calmly, "My son, what exactly do you do for a living?" Agobundu smiled thinly. "Business," he replied. "What kind of business?" her father pressed. Agobundu laughed loudly. "Sir, money is money." Amaka interrupted angrily. "Daddy, please, do not embarrass my husband-to-be." Her father kept quiet, but his heart was heavy. Within a short time, Agobundu proposed. There was no long courtship. No deep knowing. No patience. Amaka accepted immediately. "Why should I wait?" she said. "Time is money." Her mother cried that night. "This is too fast," she said. "I am afraid." Amaka dismissed her fears. "Fear does not buy happiness," she replied. The wedding was loud, colorful, and rushed. Music filled the air. Money sprayed like water. People ate until they could not stand. Amaka wore a dress that made her feel like a queen. She smiled proudly at the women who once doubted her. This is what patience brings, she thought. After the wedding, Amaka moved into Agobundu's house. It was big. It was quiet. It was fenced with tall walls. At first, Amaka enjoyed the luxury. She slept on soft beds. She woke up late. She shopped without checking prices. But slowly, strange things began to happen. Agobundu often came home late at night. Sometimes, he did not come home at all. When Amaka asked questions, he became angry. "Do you want to turn me into a poor man with your questions?" he snapped. Sometimes, he returned with bruises. Other times, he came home restless and sharp. There were days he would sit quietly, staring into space. At night, Amaka would hear him whispering on the phone. "Everything is set. Move fast. No mistakes." She felt fear, but she buried it. Every rich man has secrets, she told herself. One afternoon, Amaka found a small bag hidden in the wardrobe. Inside were gloves, dark clothes, and strange tools. Her heart pounded. When she confronted him, Agobundu laughed. "You watch too many films," he said. "These are for security." Amaka wanted to believe him. She loved the life too much to question it. Her parents visited less often. They felt uncomfortable in the house. Her mother once whispered, "This house does not have peace." Amaka became angry. "You are just jealous," she replied. She cut off friends who advised her. She defended Agobundu blindly. Money continued to flow, but peace disappeared. One night, Amaka woke up to Agobundu shouting in his sleep, "No, run, shoot." She shook him awake. He sat up, sweating. "Bad dream," he said quickly. Amaka hugged herself in fear. Still, she chose comfort over truth. Then one morning, everything collapsed. Before sunrise, the day started like every ordinary day. Amaka had grown comfortable in her new life. The house was big, the walls tall, the furniture gleaming. Her wardrobe was overflowing with dresses and shoes. Her mirrors reflected a woman she barely recognized, confident, proud, untouchable. But life has a way of reminding you that appearances are only skin deep. It happened one early morning. The sun had not yet risen. The town of Obanze was still quiet, except for the distant calls of market traders preparing for the day. Amaka was in the kitchen, humming softly as she brewed coffee. The aroma filled the house, mixing with the faint smell of polished floors and leather sofas. Suddenly, a loud rumbling sound came from outside. She paused, frowning. "Who is this so early?" she muttered. At first, she thought it was one of Agobundu's friends visiting. But then came the screech of tires. A black and white car came to a sudden stop at the gate. Its siren wailed. Amaka froze. The coffee cup slipped from her hands and crashed on the tiled floor. Bang, bang, bang. The door shook. Voices shouted in loud commands. "Open the door. Police. Everybody stay where you are." Amaka's heart skipped a beat. Her fingers trembled. She called Agobundu's name, but there was no answer. The door crashed open. Men in uniforms stormed in, guns in hand. "Everyone stay where you are," one shouted. Amaka wanted to scream, but no sound came out. She watched as Agobundu appeared in the doorway. He looked calm, but his eyes were sharp, alert, almost fearful. Before she could speak, men grabbed him. "My husband." "What is happening?" Amaka cried. I don't know." He shouted, struggling. But it was too late. Within minutes, the police had handcuffed him. They read him his rights. "You are under arrest for armed robbery and kidnapping," one officer said. Amaka's legs gave way. She sank to the floor, trembling. Her husband, the man who had brought her dreams and luxury, was now a prisoner. "What do you mean?" she screamed. "This is impossible. My husband cannot be a criminal." But even as she spoke, her eyes caught a sight she would never forget. The black car she once admired, the shiny vehicle that had symbolized wealth and status, was now surrounded by police tape. Outside, her neighbors had gathered. Some whispered, some gasped, some pointed. She felt their eyes burning through her, judging her silently. Then came another blow. Government officials arrived. They held papers, and their faces were stern. "This house has been built with money obtained through illegal activities," one officer said. "It is now seized by the government." Amaka could not believe it. She ran to Agobundu, begging, crying, shaking. "No, please, don't take the house. Don't take him." But nothing worked. Within hours, all her luxurious life was gone. Furniture was removed. Expensive electronics were taken. The servants, once friendly, were gone. Amaka sat on the cold, empty floor and realized everything she had loved, every comfort she had enjoyed, was built on lies and crime. She tried calling her friends, but no one answered. The phones that used to ring with calls of admiration were now silent. She had no one. Her parents received her the next day. She returned to her childhood home with one small bag of clothes, her pride shattered. The compound felt small, familiar, and suffocating all at once. Her mother tried to comfort her. "Child, we warned you. Money without respect for others is dangerous." Amaka shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. I never imagined, everything would disappear," she sobbed. Her father was silent, but his eyes were sad. He had known this day might come. Neighbors whispered behind her back. Children pointed. Even strangers looked at her differently. Amaka had always believed she had won in life. She had laughed at poor men. She had insulted those who worked hard without flashy wealth. She had chased appearance, not character. And now, she was left with nothing. For days, she could not eat properly. Sleep avoided her. She wandered the small rooms of her parents' house like a ghost, thinking of the life she had lost. She remembered the nights she scolded men who came to her for love but had no cars. She remembered the joy she felt when Agobundu first arrived, the pride she showed off to everyone. She remembered the luxury, the furniture, the dresses, the shoes, all gone. The reality hit harder than any words could describe. Amaka began to blame herself, realizing that her choices had led her here. She had ignored warnings. She had ignored character. She had ignored patience. She had chosen fast wealth over safety. Her days became long and heavy. Even the sun seemed brighter than her happiness. Even the air felt colder than her despair. One afternoon, as she sat under a mango tree in her parents' yard, she noticed a small bird struggling to fly. The bird was tangled in a piece of string. Amaka watched helplessly, wishing she could help. Her mother approached and said softly, "Child, see how helpless the bird is. It reminds me of you. You were trapped by your own desires." Amaka covered her face and wept. For the first time, she felt the weight of her mistakes. The men she insulted, the people she laughed at, the pride she carried, all seemed pointless now. She began to think of Chukuma, a young man she had mocked because he had no car. She remembered how she rejected him, laughed at him, and dismissed his love. At the time, she thought he was too ordinary. Now, in her empty heart, she wished she had valued him more. Weeks passed, and life did not get easier. Amaka learned that fast money carries fast trouble. She saw how people she once admired avoided her now. She felt the shame in her bones every time someone spoke her name. Even her beauty, once a source of pride, now seemed empty. Without status, without wealth, without Agobundu, she felt like a stranger to herself. Her father tried to encourage her. "Amaka, life is not over. You can still build your own path." But Amaka shook her head. "How can I start again? I wasted everything. I chose the wrong man. I ignored the right ones. Her voice broke. Her mother held her hands. "My child, you are still young. Learn from this. The world is teaching you a lesson you cannot forget." Amaka looked at the sky that evening. The sunset painted the town in gold and red. She realized something. Life had humbled her. She had once chased cars, money, and appearance. She had ignored love, patience, and character. And now, she had nothing. Nothing but regret, tears, and lessons to carry forward. The house that once felt like a childhood sanctuary now seemed smaller, quieter, almost suffocating. Every corner reminded her of simpler times, before she had chased wealth and status, before she had believed that money was the most important thing in life. Amaka spent most of her days sitting quietly under the mango tree in the yard, staring at the dusty road, lost in her thoughts. Her friends no longer called. Her neighbors whispered whenever she passed by. Even the servants in the market who once greeted her warmly now looked at her with suspicion and pity. Her mother tried to comfort her, cooking her favorite meals, washing her clothes, speaking gentle words. Her father sat silently most times, watching his daughter with a mixture of sadness and worry. He wanted to tell her that life was teaching her a lesson she would never forget, but he did not know how to reach her heart, so broken and stubborn as it had always been. One afternoon, Amaka was sitting on the steps of the compound, her chin resting on her hands. The sun was high, beating down on the red dust of Obanze. The birds sang, the market traders shouted, and the small children played in the distance. But Amaka did not see any of it. Her mind was trapped in memories of the life she had lost. The house, the car, the dresses, Agobundu himself. Suddenly, the sound of a luxury car horn broke the quiet. Amaka lifted her head, squinting at the road. A shiny black car slowed to a stop at the gate. Amaka froze. Her heart skipped a beat. Something about the car was familiar. It gleamed in the sunlight, polished and powerful. It had the kind of presence that made people step aside and look twice. Amaka stood up slowly, curiosity and fear battling inside her. The car door opened, and a tall, confident man stepped out. Amaka's stomach twisted. Her heart raced. The man was Chukuma, the young man she had mocked and rejected years ago because he had no car, no money, no flashy lifestyle. The same man she had laughed at, insulted, and dismissed. And now, he stood before her, looking strong, confident, and successful. Amaka's hands trembled as she took in the sight. Chukwuma was dressed in a well-fitted suit, polished shoes, and a calm smile. He walked with the kind of ease that only comes from patience, hard work, and self-respect. Around him, the air seemed to hum with success. But it was not Chukwuma's clothes or car that struck Amaka the most. It was his presence, the quiet confidence that came from a man who had built his life without shortcuts, without lies, without hurting others. Beside him was Amaka's younger sister, Adaku, smiling warmly. Her hands were linked with Chukwuma's, and her eyes sparkled with happiness. "Mummy, Daddy," Adaku said, turning to their parents, "this is the man I am marrying." Amaka felt as if the ground had been pulled from under her. Her knees gave way, and she sank onto the steps. Her mind raced. This was the man she had insulted. The man she had dismissed for having no car. The man she had laughed at. And now he was rich, successful, and marrying her sister. Tears filled her eyes. Her hands covered her face. She could not speak. Chukwuma smiled politely at Amaka. "Hello, Amaka," he said calmly. "Long time no see." Amaka could barely whisper, I, but no words came. She wanted to say something, anything, to explain herself, to apologize, to ask why, but the words would not form. Her mother placed a hand on her shoulder, whispering, "Child, this is life. Sometimes it teaches us lessons in ways we do not expect." Amaka shook her head. No, it cannot be," she murmured. The neighbors had gathered by now, drawn by curiosity. They watched quietly as Amaka sat there, overwhelmed by shame, regret, and longing. She remembered all the men she had rejected. Obina, the teacher with a kind heart, and now Chukwuma, the young mechanic with dreams others, simple men, working hard, hoping to love her. She had laughed at them because they were not flashy enough. She had demanded cars, wealth, and status, believing she deserved more. Now she realized the truth. Agobundu's money came from lies, crime, and danger. Chukwuma's wealth came from patience, effort, and integrity. The realization cut her deeper than any words could. Days passed. Amaka could not eat properly. Sleep eluded her. She wandered the small rooms of her parents' house like a lost soul. Even when the evening came, and the market quieted, her mind replayed the scene again and again. Chukwuma smiling, holding Adaku's hand, happy, confident, and free. Amaka felt emptier than she had ever felt in her life. She tried to convince herself that she still had time, that she could rebuild, that she could chase Chukwuma or try to reclaim her life. But deep down, she knew it was too late. Chukwuma had built himself steadily, honestly, and without shortcuts. Amaka had spent years chasing flashy appearances and ignoring substance. Her regret was too heavy, her shame too deep. One evening, she sat quietly in her room, looking at the empty walls. She whispered to herself, "Money, cars, what did I really have? I had nothing, nothing at all." Her mother entered silently. She placed a hand on Amaka's shoulder and said softly, "Not everything that shines is gold, my child. Not every man who drives a car is worth your heart. Sometimes, the one you refuse today becomes the one you admire tomorrow." Amaka wept bitterly. She realized that life had taught her a lesson she could never forget. Do not judge by appearances, do not mock those who work patiently. True wealth is built on honesty and hard work, not flashiness and lies. For the first time, Amaka understood the depth of her mistakes. She had lost not only Agobundu in her luxurious life, but also the chance at love she had once ignored. The next morning, Amaka watched Chukuma and Adaku leave in his car. The sound of the engine echoed in her heart. She knew she would never forget that moment. It was a moment of awakening, a painful, bitter, and beautiful truth. Some opportunities you reject today may never return. Some mistakes leave scars that cannot be erased. Pride, impatience, and greed can blind you to the good things waiting for you. Amaka sat under the mango tree again, staring at the red dust of Obanze. The sun rose, warm and bright, and she realized she was seeing the world with new eyes. She had lost much. She had cried much. She had learned much. And deep in her heart, she whispered a silent vow. Never again will I let appearances decide my heart. The wind rustled the leaves, as if agreeing. The mango tree stood tall, silent witness to her humiliation, her regret, and her awakening. Amaka's life would never be the same again. But from that moment, she understood that life's lessons, no matter how painful, are sometimes the only way to grow. The days after seeing Chukuma with her younger sister, Adaku, were the hardest of Amaka's life. She woke up each morning feeling empty, haunted by memories of the life she had lost. The house in Obanze, once filled with laughter and luxury, was now nothing more than a memory, taken away by the law. The man she had chosen for wealth and cars, Agobundu, was behind bars, and every corner of the house he had built with crime now existed only in whispers of shame. Amaka had returned to her parents' house, but it felt smaller than it used to. The walls seemed to close in, the yard felt narrow, and the familiar smells of home no longer brought comfort. She wandered the compound, silent, lost in her thoughts. Her mother tried to console her, cooking meals she could barely touch. Her father said little, only watching her with a mixture of pity and sadness. Even her friends avoided her. Gossip traveled fast in Obanze, and Amaka's fall from prideful luxury to humble shame was the talk of the town. But nothing hurt more than Chukuma's presence in her life, or rather, the absence of him. Every time she remembered the day he arrived with Adaku, her heart ached. Chukuma had grown into a man she could have loved. He had worked patiently, building himself step by step, without taking shortcuts. And she had thrown him away because of a car, because of a lack of flashy wealth, because of her foolish pride. She remembered how she had mocked him, laughed at him, and rejected him. She remembered how she had told herself she deserved only the best, without realizing that the best is not measured by money or cars, but by character, honesty, and patience. Now, Chukuma was happy with Adaku. He was successful, confident, and respected. He drove cars that Amaka could only dream of. He had built his life carefully, honestly, and with dignity. And Amaka had nothing. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she thought of all the men she had insulted in her youth. Obina, Kalechi, and others, men who had worked hard, loved her sincerely, and were building futures. She had laughed at them all. She had judged them by appearances. She had chosen flash over substance. Now, she understood the bitter truth. Money gained through lies and crime brings only temporary pleasure and permanent pain. True wealth comes from patience, honesty, and hard work. Pride and greed can blind even the most beautiful hearts. Amaka began to reflect deeply. She remembered the time she mocked Chukuma for having oil-stained hands, not realizing that one day, his hard work could have made him wealthy in the right way. She remembered the times she laughed at Obina for not having a car, not knowing that patience could have brought him stability, respect, and even happiness with her. And most of all, she remembered Agobundu. The man she had chosen, who had cars, money, and status, had destroyed everything for her. She had thought she had won, but all she had gained was shame, emptiness, and regret. For weeks, Amaka cried herself to sleep. She avoided mirrors because she did not want to see the face that had once been proud and cruel. She avoided neighbors, afraid of their whispers. Even the market, which once brought her joy in shopping, now reminded her of everything she had lost. Her parents tried to guide her gently. "My child," her mother said softly one evening, "life is not about chasing what shines. It is about choosing what lasts. You have learned a hard lesson, but you must not lose yourself completely." Her father added, "We all make mistakes. What matters is what you do after. How you rise from this will define the rest of your life." Amaka nodded, but inside, she knew that rising would not be easy. She felt the weight of her choices, the consequences of pride, and the emptiness left by chasing the wrong things. One afternoon, she walked to the small river near her parents' house. The water flowed gently, reflecting the sky. She looked at her reflection and saw a woman changed forever. Gone was the pride. Gone was the arrogance. Gone was the illusion of control. In its place was a woman humbled, thoughtful, and broken, but still alive. She whispered to herself, "I should have chosen love, patience, and honesty over flash. I should have seen character, not just cars and money. I should have valued people for who they are, not what they own." Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Amaka began to rebuild her life. She went to the market with her mother, helping sell foodstuff. She visited the local school and volunteered in small ways. She learned to appreciate the small things she had once mocked: hard work, kindness, and honesty. But every step she took, Chukuma remained in her thoughts. She saw him less as a man she wanted and more as a symbol of everything she had ignored. The day came when Adaku and Chukuma returned from a trip, smiling, happy, and in love. Amaka watched them from afar. She could have felt anger or jealousy, but instead, she felt deep, quiet regret. She wept, not out of hatred, but because she knew she had lost a chance at something real, something honest, something lasting. That evening, as she sat alone outside the compound, Amaka whispered a vow: "Never again will I let appearances guide my heart. Never again will I mock patience or honesty. I will live my life valuing people for who they are, not what they have." The wind rustled the leaves, as if agreeing. The mango tree, which had witnessed her rise and fall, now stood as a silent teacher. Amaka's story became a lesson not just for her, but for anyone who would hear it. Cars, money, and flash do not make a person worthy of love. Patience, integrity, and character outlast wealth and appearance. Pride and greed can blind even the most beautiful hearts. Life has a way of teaching lessons you cannot ignore. Amaka realized that though she had lost much, she had also gained something invaluable: wisdom, humility, and a new perspective on life. She began to rebuild slowly, saving her money, helping her parents, and thinking carefully about the people she allowed into her heart. Though she cried for what she had lost, she also smiled for the lessons she had learned. And in that quiet moment under the mango tree, she finally understood. Life is not about chasing what shines, but about embracing what lasts. Her tears were no longer just of regret, they were of awakening, growth, and understanding. Amaka had fallen, yes, but she was rising again, wiser, humbler, and ready to choose a life built on truth, patience, and love, not flash and appearances.